Welcome, everybody. This is AMPW, and the first item of business is approval of the minutes of the regular meeting, April 25.
Move approval.
Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Alderman Nguyen, would you like to read A1 and A2? Blue. and
Blue, thank you. Thank you. Item A1 is, I move approval of the City of Evanston payroll through April 17th, the amount of $2,795,188.45. And then I move approval of City of Evanston bills, May 10th, 2016, $3,284,050.28. Credit card activity for the period ending March 31, 2016 of $174,333.87.
Second.
Any discussion of the bills, et cetera? Everybody get a chance to
Just,
read?
I saw the bills list.
Yes.
I mean, the questions, yeah.
Okay. All those in favor of recommending approval to the council, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Alderman Holmes, 3-1.
3A31, contract with TFS Alliance Group for roof evaluation services at various city facilities in the amount of $29,900.
Okay. Second, any discussion on this one? All those in favor of the TFS Alliance Group, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Right, I'll take the next one. A 3.2 is requesting approval and recommending to the council the contract with Precision Pavement Markings, Inc. for the 2016 pavement marking program. The lowest responsive and responsible bid was in the amount of $100,000 by Precision Pavement.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on this one? Our pavement needs marking, for sure. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Alderman Nguyen?
Would point out, Alderman Rainey, it's an 18% saving over last year.
Yes.
Definitely. Alderman Nguyen, 3-3.
A 3.3, this is a change order number 2 to engineering services agreement with CDM Smith for water treatment plant reliability improvements. This is in the not-to-exceed amount of $13,955, increasing the contract amount from $230,713 to $244,688.
Okay. Second, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Alderman Holmes?
A 3.4, amendment to the engineering services agreement for the water plant treatment plant reliability improvement. Staff recommends that the city authorize the city manager to execute amendment number 1 to the agreement in the not to exceed amount of $200,766, increasing the contract from $244,668 to $445,434. It will also extend the contract for 335 days from May 31, 2016 to May 1, 2017.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on this?
Question. I'm assuming that the bid, it says that the staff or the city is obtaining a low-interest loan from the Illinois Environmental Protection. It said that for both 3.3 and 3.4. So then that would help cover these costs if we get it. Does that what that mean?
We
Mr. Stone,
have to pay it back.
Yeah.
Mr. Stonebeck is here to discuss that. Some of the engineering services not a part of the actual construction, and also, Dave, why don't we go through the process that this is an amendment versus a change order because of the phases of the project?
Yes. Good evening, Chair Rainey and members. Dave Stonebeck, Public Works Director. The first item that you voted on, we had already awarded the design phase to CDM and there were changes in the design, and that's what we call a change order, and that's what you approved under the one. The second one is now we're awarding engineering services during the construction. They'll oversee the construction part of it. Both of those projects are in line to be funded by an IEPA loan. For the loan eligible parts, there's some very minor work that they don't consider loan eligible that the city will have to fund. But the rest of it, yes, is under the very low interest, less than 2%.
What's our interest rate?
Less than 2%.
Compared to our bond rate that's is still very good at around 3 to 3.25.
Right. Okay, great. Thanks.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All right. All those in favor of recommending this to the council, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. A3.5, single source purchase of hot mix asphalt from Builders Asphalt is recommended in the amount of $46,800.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Lisa? Alderman Nguyen?
Yes, thank you. A3.6, this is a purchase order for Suburban Tree Consortium, trees and planting services. The staff recommends the city council authorize the city manager to execute a purchase order for the purchase of 213 trees and planting services of 100 trees from Suburban Tree Consortium in the amount of $51,686.60. The funding for this purchase is provided from two sources. The first is from the general fund and the forestry division budget. The second source is from the Replant Express program, and this program allows residents to pay $250 or $425, the cost of a 2.5 caliper or 3.5-inch tree plus delivery to be added to our planting list immediately rather than waiting the 2 years it typically takes for a replacement tree. So there are 15 additional trees being planted through this program this year.
So, second. Alderman Nguyen, it would be good to mention this again, that there is a program called Replant Express.
Yes.
And citizens can call 311 to get connected to the proper party if they want a tree right now, right?
That's correct. And then you can also, through this program, I know this from residents in my ward, you can also purchase a larger tree than the city standard, so that you you start off with a larger tree.
A better chance for survival. All
Well,
right.
to tell you the truth, I'm not sure it actually is a better chance, but no, and not necessarily, but it just means you start off with a bigger one.
Bigger tree.
All right. All those in favor of recommending this purchase to the council, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
A3.7, contract renewal with GSG Materials Testing Incorporated for the 2016 material testing and inspection services. This is to provide testing materials for various city construction projects in the amount, let's see, for the water, in the water fund, it's $27,000. In the amount of $5,000 from the MFT fund, from federal funds, $9,000, and from the parking fund, $17,000. That would be the total contract for 2016 project, which is $65,000 total.
Second?
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, I'll take the next one. Before I go on, those of you who've signed up have signed up to speak about the discussion items, so we're going to wait till just before we get to the discussion items to bring you up and talk.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I was wondering if there is the opportunity for Alderman Braithwaite to make it. He may wish to be here for Penny Park. So if we skipped 3.8
we'll-
until the last to give him the opportunity.
Let's skip that until he gets here.
All right, we'll skip over that. So that's the next one, right?
Yeah,
3.8, okay. So we're going to hold 3.8 till the end of the meeting. A3.9 is a contract with All Town Bus Services for the 2016 Summer Bus Transportation Program in the amount of $50,838. Alltown was the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, and the payments will be made out of the various programs that will be served by the buses.
Second.
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next item.
Is a 3.10 renewal agreement with Open Kitchens, Inc. for the 2016 Summer Food Service Program. The staff recommends City Council approve the renewal agreement for the Summer Food Program service with Open Kitchens in the amount of $3.33 per lunch. This is a reimbursement program in which the total amount of the city receives is dependent upon the number of meals served and the level of participation.
Second.
Yeah, okay.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
A 3.11, Sidewalk Cafe for Homestead Meats. Staff recommends the City Council approve a first-time application for a Sidewalk Cafe permit for Homestead's Meats. It's a retail service at 1305 Chicago Avenue. They will provide only one type of sandwich daily, and the Sidewalk Cafe will consist of 3 tables and 2 chairs each, and will operate 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. daily.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
I think it's a great idea.
Great idea.
And their meat is really delicious.
I've had it. You're absolutely right. All those in favor of 311, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Alderman Holmes.
I just did,
Oh, you just,
yeah, it's you, 312.
I'm so excited about the outdoor cafe. Contract with MBR Wrecking for demolition of 1816 Lamar.
Yay.
This is I was
This was a
thinking of you.
treehouse. It
I
was
was
a
thinking
treehouse.
of you. In the amount of $26,170. Anyway, funding will be from IDA through a vacant property grant.
Second.
Okay? Any discussion? Do you want to discuss this?
I just want to say that this house literally had a tree growing
Through it?
through the house, yeah. So
Okay,
we
that's
were
a
really
first.
happy to have it down.
That's
Yeah.
a first, yeah. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Item 3.13, contract with Brush Truck Center of Northern Illinois for the purchase of an International Harvester truck with an aerial bucket device. The staff recommends we approve this purchase for the Public Works Agency. The amount is $74,277.
Second.
Well, it's more than that,
Oh, excuse me.
because the bucket is separate.
Yes, the total cost is $158,975.
Right, right. Second. All right, any discussion of this? Looks like good. All right, all those in favor of recommending the purchase to the council?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
The bucket is more than the truck.
The big.
Yes, it's a big bucket.
Big bucket.
314.
A 3.14, contract with Vision Internet for website redesign and hosting contract. Staff recommends that the City Council authorize the city manager to negotiate a 2-year single-source service agreement with an option to renewal for 2 additional 1-year services with Vision Internet in the amount of $45,285 for funding year 2016 and $10,000 for funding year 2017 and 18 to cover the website design and hosting services for the City of Evanston's website.
Second, would anybody like an explanation from staff about this? Anyone want to hear anything?
I had an interesting email, or I guess we all did, today about liking that our staff had designed a nice website themselves. I thought it was a nice compliment from one of the residents, and questioning why we were going for an outside source to do it. But
I see Ms. Storley is here, and she certainly has been responsible for a lot of this, so share with us. Hi.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Erica Storley, Deputy City Manager and Administrative Services Director. Thank you for the compliment. Staff, in conjunction with a vendor, did design the current website in 2010 at a cost of $20,000. But that website has now kind of outlived its usefulness in terms of the way that the content in it is managed, and that's really the most important part about why we're going forward with this contract at this time, and also because the nature of how people view websites has changed, and we have now, more than 50% of people looking at our website on a mobile device, and our website doesn't play nicely with those devices. So the third reason that's also really important is that the hosting of this website is now going to be hosted with the vendor versus hosted in-house. And as also has changed over the last 6 years, a lot of communities are victims of hacking attacks, which can be through no fault of their own. But having a vendor who is really experienced with hosting would help us be more protected than if we just had our in-house staff trying to defend us.
Those are all good reasons.
They are good reasons.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Will the design be a lot different? We're going to have to learn how to find stuff again? Yes.
As we move forward with the progress or process, we will be looking for people to help with design and iterations and things like that. So it'll be an involved process. So I don't know that the design will change significantly, but we know people are happy with the current website, so I'm sure that those design ideas will be put into the next recommendation for the website.
It was interesting, the other night at a committee meeting, staff was telling the committee about some of these fabulous things that were on the website. And it was about landlords, and landlords were sitting there and they didn't know about it. So then we tried to find it with staff present, and it was hard to find. So maybe those kinds of things can be cleared up.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.
I do hope that, I have seen some websites of some organizations or institutions that change to mobile, to the mobile form, and sometimes the mobile form is a little too streamlined. So I think that that's something to keep in mind, because I do think that sometimes they've gone a little bit too far and made it, and it is actually a little bit more difficult unless you're very familiar with the site.
Yeah, it will be a challenge that we will embrace to try to, still get the information that we want to get out to the public with all the various events and
Right.
meetings and things like that, while also trying to have it fit better with those mobile devices. It's a happy medium to try to strike that balance.
But mobile-friendly websites don't necessarily have all of the components that a laptop you can look. Is that true?
Most of them have what you would see towards the end of the page, which is like a link that says click here to go to the full version.
Yeah, right.
So if you still wanted to view the regular version of the website on your mobile device, you could by doing your pinch and zoom or things like that.
Yeah.
Thank you. We really appreciate all your work. Okay. So the next one is the Straw Dog lease. Oh, we need to vote.
Yes.
All those in favor of recommending to the council the website redesign and hosting contract with Vision Internet, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. I'll do this now, okay? Resolution 36R16, authorizing lease amendment with Straw Dog Theater Company for rehearsal and office space at 633 Howard. This would be a temporary 8-month lease, 18-month lease, and the monthly rent would be $1,200 due the first of the month, of course. Okay.
Second?
Any discussion? I'm sure there will be at council when everybody's present. All right, all those in favor of recommending to council, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'll take
Um,
A5.
Any word on, Peter? Is this?
No, that's all. That's Rodney.
Alderman Nguyen?
Resolution 35R16, authorizing Olga Bernick to operate concessions at the Robert Crown Center. The staff is making this recommendation to enter into a 12-month agreement between the City of Evanston and Olga Bernick.
Any discussion?
I think it needs to be seconded.
Second.
Okay.
I was a little interrupted. Any, what? Blue and white. We'll all close our eyes while you sneak out and move it. Seriously, if your cab is here, please move it.
Mr. O'Sullivan?
He's going to.
If you check that out, also there, we could have folks down the hall waiting for the council meeting, so if you check there as well.
All right, next item.
Shall we go back to Penny Park?
Penny Park or discussion?
I think we should go to Penny Park because we're going to discuss this.
Sure.
Yeah, all right.
Would you like me to do it?
Yes, I would.
Item A 3.8, Design Build Services with L&R Construction Company for Penny Park renovation project. The amount of the project is $478,400.
Okay.
This
Any
is a
dis-
design
second?
build services.
Yep.
Yes.
Second. Any discussion?
A second.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay. Move this on to the council. All those in favor of recommending to the council, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, next, we have that's it for us. We have two discussion items. Do you have a preference how we take them?
We have thank you, Madam Chair. We have the alley paving program. We have about 4 slides. Do we have,
We have-
let's do the speakers
Yes.
and do the taxis first.
You want to do taxis
Yes.
first? Okay. Marie Figueroa, you're signed up to speak, and then we'll do the presentation.
Good evening, Madam Chair and Council Member. Yes, my name is Marie Figao. It's regarding the taxi that I did send an email to all of you and explaining our issue or problem with the taxi. So we know now it's time for the regulation and everything have to deregulate. But we asking when you take on consideration or first.
Could you talk a little more into here?
Yeah, first for the chauffeur license, City of Evanston require you have to be 21 years old and older to drive a taxi. And City of Evanston require that you got a background check, 3 days classes, medical checkup, which is physical, MVR, and 2 picture and fees. So we asking the city if they can modify it for us, because right now the regulation is like the other party doesn't require to do anything to drive in Evanston, while we require to do all this. And we're asking the city if they can modify it, eliminate the 3 days classes, and if they can issue the driver a temporary class, a temporary chauffeur license, so they can go ahead and have because when you come in to drive and they don't have enough people to do the class, so you gotta go wait until there is enough people. So we asked the city if the medical, physical, you have to go to the doctor to do physical. I don't see why, and also the classes, now there is GPS, so this is thanks for the chauffeur license. And for the renewal, we asking the city right now, to renew, we have to spend $450 from January 2nd to February 15th, and February 16th to we pay $250, but from February 16 to April, we have to pay $413, which is $163 penalty. And with City of Chicago, it's only $25 penalty. So that's what take all these expense we have in consideration for us. And also, if we can renew with our ID, because it take between $10,000 to $13,000 to put a cab out. So if we can renew, and the city can, when we renew, the city can put the medallion on hold, and then when we get a driver, and then we will be able to pick up, come to the city, inspect the car. And this is particularly what I'm asking, because if you look at our expense, for us, we have to put a car from 2010 to newer, and for the other party, they can put a cab 204, which is it doesn't balance. The expense versus our expense doesn't balance at all. So please take all these into consideration for us. So that's what, and also you get the list of everything that was like to put a cab out, how much it costs. It costs between, if you put a 2010 out, by the time you dress up the car, you paint the car, you put a $4,000 liability insurance on it, and the safety, because the car have to go to a garage for safety. That's what required by the law. And we have to get a top light for $100, and we pay every month from $350 to $605 to a company, if we belong to a company. Now we ask the city of Evanston if they can open the market, let people go, let people drive, you can go as an independent contractor. So if you have your medallion, because not everybody has the money every month to pay the company. So we ask if they can let us go as an independent contractor, so people will get their car, they will come to the city, can set up a color and say, if you are an independent contractor, this is the color you have to get. Also, everybody, before you put your car out, you always come to Mr. Sullivan for him to inspect the car. So when you take the decision, take all this in consideration, because right now, it doesn't balance. When you look at the other party is here and we here, but our expense goes down, and then, I mean, it's really the imbalance. So please take it in consideration for us, especially for the renewal. Okay, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. The recommendation, it's the other.
Okay.
So let's have a presentation on the taxi bill. Who's doing that?
We, Madam Chair, we do not have a presentation. We have a staff report. Mark Munzer and Steve O'Sullivan are here. Mark met with, when was the meeting? Or is it next Thursday? Last Thursday, so met on Thursday. Received many similar comments. I'm sorry, Mr. Farrar, is this your response?
I get to do the introduction.
Thank you, sir.
Are we doing taxi?
I will get the light.
Yes, because we haven't had a discussion on it yet.
That's what I think we
okay.
should, yeah.
Are we having
But I
that
thought you
present?
said
I didn't
there
think there
wasn't
was.
any
So we were putting the memo up. We have,
Right,
There's a memo and a discussion.
right, so I don't need to turn the light off is what we're getting to.
Madam Chairman, members of the committee, Grant Farrar Corporation Counsel, the Assistant City Manager, and Mr. Munzer are indeed correct, following direction received at the prior City Council meeting. Staff convened a meeting with approximately 29 stakeholders in the local taxi business, and that meeting was convened in the Parasol Room on May 5th. That meeting was substantially moderated by Ms. Knapp and Mr. O'Sullivan, who are here to further amplify what was discussed at that meeting and respond to questions that this committee may have. In a nutshell, with respect to the concerns that have been expressed in this forum, those same concerns were expressed at that meeting, namely that the taxi companies are of the view and the hope that some of the regulations with respect to their business model may be revised in some cases reduced and or eliminated. There is a significant amount of concern over the renewal fees. With respect to the renewal fees going forward, pursuant to direction as we've outlined in the staff memorandum, staff has followed the moratorium, the direction to institute a moratorium with respect to whether or not a cab license, a medallion, becomes inactive upon non-payment of the renewal. Staff is not currently proceeding with any non-renewals or auctioning off of medallions. So that is one step that staff has taken pursuant to direction. With respect to the larger global issues involved, I think that really the ordinance governing and regulating the cab system, as everyone is aware, is a product of thinking and conditions that were in time relevant in 1982 and 1998, which in fact are the really substantive times where that ordinance was first devised and or revised. So coming to grips with the business model, coming to grips with the requests of the taxi community, that is why we're here before you, since these all involve matters of policy. In a more global sense and a more general sense, the trend towards regulations of the cab industry is of ongoing interest. In other jurisdictions, some cities have elected to relax cab restrictions. Other cities have maintained a status quo. Other cities have focused more upon the ride-sharing operations such as Uber and Lyft. And so really what it becomes a question for this committee and the city council on a policy perspective is where do the cab regulations go forward? From staff's perspective, we see a lot of opportunities to perhaps reduce and or revise some of the regulations with respect to vehicle inspections. There's a comprehensive vehicle inspection protocol that is maintained and implemented by the state of Illinois. So there are some redundancies there with respect to cabs. In terms of the other issues relative to the business model, certainly the advent of GPS, the advent of other ride geographical systems that assist operators are certainly in place. So a lot of the regulations in the city code relative to taxi meters and other items of that ilk certainly could benefit from perhaps some revision and or elimination. So that's sort of the general overview where we're at, and we're asking for further direction, and Ms. Knapp and Mr. O'Sullivan, who have been present in the meeting and who have the operational aspects well in hand, are certainly available to answer questions.
Could you?
Just one follow-up. I think we've also been following, when we say that the other, whether it's an Uber or Lyft, do not have the same regulations, it doesn't mean they have none. They're just not administered by the city. So there can be administration, safety, other protocols administered by the office, the franchisor for Uber. And we've been sharing some articles on that as recently as today. So staff is definitely not recommending a relaxing of, where there's no regulation, but it doesn't mean that the city has to be the provider of the inspection or the provider of a given regulation. We still want safety as a preeminent concern, but there are, as Mr. Farrar pointed out, newer models that we can consider.
I'd like to discuss briefly the taxi operational costs. The city can't do anything about the cost to purchase a taxi cab. We can't do anything about the cost to operate a taxi cab, $4,000 to $5,000 a year. We can do something about the next three items. And I'm wondering, why do we have to issue a taxi license every year? Why do we have to do that?
It's just the way the system was drawn up in 1982, Alderman Rainey.
Okay, we don't have a real hardcore reason at the moment that we do that. So what I would think we should look at to begin with are these three costs. Costs to maintain a vehicle license, $250 to $410 a year. Every year they have to pay that? I don't see that makes any sense. And cost to register for a chauffeur license, do they do that with us or at the Secretary of State's office?
Both.
Both?
Both, and I will
But
defer
these are
to,
just our costs.
yes.
Okay, all right, so that. Then cost to maintain a chauffeur's license, $100 to $180 a year. So you register a chauffeur license for a chauffeur's, then you pay $100 to $180 a year. That just seems overdone and overburdensome. So I would really recommend that, even every other year seems a lot. I don't know.
Well, don't you think maybe we just should ask staff to maybe go back to the table in terms of, and come back with suggestions in terms of how they may be able to modify or
Yes,
reduce?
but we should have the conversation. I mean,
Oh,
we should,
I'm not-
we sh- I mean,
I know,
staff
but we
would
don't
like
have all
to
the
know how
information.
we feel about these.
And I'm saying, I think staff does know that we'd like to see them do some modifications or a way in which we could assist, and I think that was,
But the reason we have these, I did not know these things,
Oh,
okay? I did not know it costs to maintain a taxi vehicle license up to $410 a year. That's nuts. So I would like staff to know, I think that's over the top for 200 to 209. And then we discuss here the administration moratorium. If you read this, it says that we're holding off, and that people with non-renewed taxi vehicle licenses will be able to renew their licenses at any time, paying the $250 annual renew fee and vehicle sticker fee, in addition to $125 for the standard late penalty total of $3. We're allowing them to have a moratorium, and then we're charging them a late fee? That doesn't quite sound right either. It's a small amount, but it doesn't sound right. So those are my opinions. What are yours?
no, I would like to see what's possible to modify or to eliminate. And that's why I'm asking, I hear them saying we can begin to discuss it. So I think that we should know what it is possible to do, what's legal, what's safety, that kind of thing, because I think we all want to make sure that they're safe. So I understand that if you have to go to the state of Illinois to be renewed, then it doesn't seem to me we ought to come to the city of Evanston to be renewed as well. But that's just me as a layperson saying that. I don't know if that's, maybe we have other regulations that the state doesn't have, so
We do.
that's why
They have to come here once a year.
I understand that, but there's got to be a reason why, and that's all I'm saying.
What's the value? Why did we decide that you came here once a year?
That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
Sir.
So I agree with Alderman Holmes. I think that if the staff could come back to us with a recommendation of all of these things, I agree with you, Alderman Rainey, some of these things are illogical, but if they could come back to us with what they think would make things more of a level playing field, that's what I'd like to see.
City manager.
Alderman Rainey, members of the committee, good evening. We certainly can do that, Alderman Nguyen. Again, as Mr. Farrar mentioned in his presentation, this is all a creature of the city of Evanston, and a creature at a very different time, almost, 30 years ago when this was created. So, Madam Chair, with a direction from the committee, if you'd like to hold this item, continue to hold it in committee, we will come back with a revised ordinance. My guess is between 30 and 45 days is a reasonable time frame.
Yes, there's the city code regulations are 18 pages, and if the direction and certainly the sense of the committee is that we be very broad-minded in terms of revisions and edits and bring those back, 30 to 45 day is appropriate time frame.
And so that would include, I think, the full gamut of what has been discussed here. We would streamline the costs associated. We would look to the state of Illinois. If they license or they inspect, that we would support that and not have to duplicate that. So I think the discussion has been pretty clear from my perspective as to what you're looking to do. We just need to go back and put that into an ordinance and come back to you. So, and then I think to Alderman Rainey's point regarding the collection of any late fees, I think we can suspend all of that.
Yeah.
For now, with the hope that we would get this all organized. Then I think we'd also will be challenged with an effective date, so that we deal with this on an annual basis. We're now at the middle of early May, middle of May. I think a July 1 effective date would be a great goal. That's in that 45-day time frame. So I think if we needed to prorate a fee, make it a half a year, whatever. So even if the council ends up adopting it in July, perhaps if we go back to that July 1st effective date, that make it a little bit cleaner. So, Madam Chair, members of the committee, if that's your direction, we'll take that and be back to you no later than the end of June.
Well, fine, but this was a very comprehensive memo, and there were lots of things, I mean, there's 11 pages of stuff to discuss, and, okay. I mean,
And thanks to Mr. O'Sullivan and Mr. Munzer and Ms. Knapp, they've done a great job. And I think we've tried, as your city staff, to really look at this in a more holistic way. And we're dealing with transportation and mobility all together now. And so certainly the regulation of taxis and shared ride services fit into all of that. So certainly by not going through each point of the memo does not take away from the fine staff work that was done. But I think the direction from the committee is pretty clear, and we'll move forward with the drafting.
So 45 days, we'll bring it back, is that it?
By the end of June, right?
So no later than the June 27th meeting? That would be roughly the 45 days? If we can do it on, the 13th or the 20th, we will shoot for that. We are going to have a 13th meeting, a third Monday meeting on June 13th. It's going to be a pretty heavy agenda, so if we can do that the following week, we'll shoot for that.
Thank you very much. So would somebody like to move to hold this? Send it
To
back
hold it in
staff?
committee, I would move to hold it in committee and go for the staff to go back and come back with a revised ordinance.
Thank you. Second. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
Thank you.
Next, Robin Hershey. Next discussion item is our alley paving problem. Hello.
Thank you for letting me speak. Since 1989, we've lived on the south side of Payne Street between McDaniel and Pioneer, so I'm not just in here on a whim. Our alley is not paved, and 2 or 3 times a year they come through with these graters, like big rakes, and you're probably familiar with that, and grate the alleys. But they almost immediately become filled with ruts again and puddles, and they flood. And recently, one of my neighbors has started a drive to get all the neighbors to participate in getting the alley paved. And he originally was told it would be done in 2017 for a cost of between $2,000 and $5,000 per household that borders the our alley is also on the north side of Simpson and the west side of Pioneer and the east side of McDaniel. So
Okay,
it's a
I
fairly
see.
large alley. But then more recently was told, no, it would be budgeted in 2017 for paving in 2018. And now we're told that that isn't even the case anymore. It probably would not be paved till 2020, and some of us are kind of old. We might not make it till then. But seriously, and that the cost would be more like $9,600 per household, which is quite a jump, but that we wouldn't know until the job was actually put out for bids. So mainly, what I'm here tonight is to ask if they could release the funding earlier so that we do go through it, that we wouldn't have to wait till 2020 to have it done. In fact, recently there's been quite a bit of construction particularly on Simpson, and the truck traffic through the alley has just really torn it up. They did do some repairs of it, and it is a lot nicer at the moment, but we would still like to have it paved, and we would hope that the costs could be closer to the original estimate, possibly.
The costs are what the costs are. I mean, we put it out to bid and then we find out. Tell me again, are you north of Simpson, east of McDaniel, or are you north of Payne,
What-
east of?
I'm on Payne Street. I live at 2408 Payne, which is on the south side of the street.
Well, we have two here. One is 2019, one is 2020. I don't know which one you are.
What, I'm sorry, could you repeat what you said again?
It says here, north of Payne, east of McDaniel. Your petition has been accepted, right, by the Board of Local Improvements?
Yes,
Right.
but we're on the south side of Payne Street.
So it's north
east
of...
North of Simpson.
Well, that one says it's not yet accepted. Mr. Stoneback, can you clarify for us where she is?
I'm not the one actually that's been doing it, but Mr. Marzel wasn't able to come to the meeting this evening. So,
Madam Chair?
No.
And I would, after the resident is done, I definitely would want to call your attention to the memo and what we'll have on the screen, so we could actually, if I can get the PowerPoint up, and we could go to the schedule, so everybody in the room could see the schedule. And
Well, the one that is scheduled for 2020
right there, thank you.
says it hasn't yet been accepted, so.
And that's what I wanted to point out. So, and that can happen. We also have those that are accepted and then are pulled back. You can have an accepted petition that at the public hearing, somebody changes their vote when they finally have the entire cost estimate. So it is a long process, meaning that it's very inclusive with all residents that are interested. Not all residents are sometimes contacted during the petition phase. Our ordinance reads that once you get to 51%, you can stop asking. So once half are agreed, and then those that are not agreed show up at the public hearing. So it is a multi-step process, but what our resident has pointed out tonight is that we have a lot of interest. We've noticed that costs are going up to do the alleys, and our budget was increased 4 or 5 years ago, and it's not enough, and that's the purpose of tonight's discussion. So to your point, ma'am, regarding releasing funds, there are no funds to be released, if you will. It's how much can the city afford each year, and one of the discussion points tonight is to look at other revenue sources for the city side of the 50%, because residents are coming forward and saying, we're ready with our 50%. Are you ready to match? And so our discussion point tonight is to look at those options for other ways to fund the city side.
okay, maybe that's what I was supposed to say.
Yep, that's okay. I just wanted to make sure if you're talking with somebody, it's a matter of the city making sure there are funds available each year to pay for the alley.
Well, let's take a look at this, and we'll find out if your alley has been accepted by the Board of Local Improvements. Because if it has, and it's scheduled, that's the good news. The bad news is if your alley hasn't been accepted, then it'll be pushed back. So
Okay.
let's find out.
It is
and-
the one that says 2020, though.
So it has not yet been accepted. So
North.
your petition has not yet been accepted. And so, anyway, why don't we hear
If I-
the presentation, and then we can talk further.
Sure.
And our
Madam-
staff is right here who can talk to you after.
And Lara Biggs, our Bureau Chief for Engineering, is here to do the presentation. Just one final note, petition submitted, not yet accepted. That means the Board of Local Improvements hasn't yet met to accept the petition. So they have their 51% signatures.
Laura, just 1 second, please. Alderman Holmes.
No, I was just going to say that I think we've been trying to get people to do alleys for years, and now they want to do them, but everyone has to understand that there's only so much money on the city side as well. And so when you get a lot of requests, then they come in order. I believe I'm correct in that, because we've had to wait for lots of alleys in my ward, and you just have to wait your turn, and sometimes the prices go up because fees go up in terms of materials and that kind of thing. So that's probably what, what may be happening with that. But I don't know how they'd be getting on cost and not.
Engineer estimates.
Yes. Oh,
We do
But
provide
some of these, like 2016-17 schedule, they've been trying to get on for probably 2 or 3 years themselves.
Right.
So it's not like they just popped up overnight.
and we do provide an estimate at the beginning, and then there's a process that we'll point folks to where at one point, we do lock the price to the resident. So quite often, if it's a period of rising prices, the resident gets locked at a certain rate, and if the bids come in higher, then there's a potential, or there's additional cost. The city just pays the higher dollar amount because we are encouraging people to do their alleys. So
Ms. Biggs.
I would assume it must cost the city quite a bit to do the grade.
It does.
Yes, it does.
That's why we've always encouraged people to get their alleys paved, and now we have this dilemma. So let's hear this presentation.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
members of the committee, I'm Laura Biggs. I'm the Bureau Chief of Capital Planning. And I want to talk really quickly, although I think we've covered quite a lot of it, about the process by which the 50/50 program works. So the city participates in a 50% cost share with the residents. The residents request a petition, and if they get at least 50% of their neighbors to sign in approval of doing the alley, then the cost the petition goes back to the Board of Local Improvements, which then votes on whether to accept the petition or not. Usually, if the petition has been successfully signed, the petition is accepted. And then the alley is put on the schedule for construction, and the costs are done via a special assessment process to the property. So now, looking at our current alley backlog, this is a list of all the alleys that are sort of on our radar that are that have a reasonable guarantee that they're going forward via the resident approval process. So these first 6 alleys, we've gotten the petitions in, we've accepted them by BLI, so they came back with more than 50% of the yes signatures, and the BLI voted to accept it. The next 2 are the same, but they've come in very recently, and so the BLI just hasn't had the chance to accept the petition. Then we have 2 alleys that Northwestern University has proposed to pay the residents' share of the cost of the alleys, but that still leaves the city to pay the city share of the cost of the alleys. And then finally, there are 2 planned unit developments where by resolution, the PUD is paying a portion of the cost, but again, the city is also financing a portion of the cost of the alley. So currently, the city is budgeting about $500,000 a year for alley improvements. And when you look at the timetable in the last column, just doing some simple math, it just lengthens out the schedule. The Northwestern ones came up very, very recently, so they haven't had an opportunity to be scheduled. And then the PUD ones, we can't do the alleys until the project's finished, so they weren't on the schedule yet either. Although 1515 Chicago is going to be complete pretty quickly here. So right now we're just looking at this 8-year backlog. And I think Alderman Holmes pointed out very clearly that why are we having this problem now? It's because for years it was hard to get the successful petition process done. Residents just didn't want to enter into these financial commitments. And now this program is just radically increased in popularity. And so we're at a different set of challenges now. So this map actually kind of shows that everything's geographically dispersed. This isn't a single ward problem. And there's a few additional categories of alleys. The ones that are in this blue color here are actually active alley petitions where the petitions were issued, but we haven't even gotten them back yet. And so I haven't accounted for that in my 8-year backlog discussion. There's also some alleys, the colors are kind of weird here, but it shows better on the internet, that are in brown. And these are where people have come and requested a petition. We have 6 people that are on wait lists. We aren't issuing petitions anymore because there's no guarantee that by the time they got on the list that the same properties, the owners would be the same as we work through the backlog. And then finally, there is occasionally CDBG funding, but again, that usually pays for a portion of the residents' share. It doesn't pay for the city's share of the alley construction. So just presenting you with a few options of things that we could do to address this problem, because we are getting some complaints from residents about it. One, we could just maintain our current level of alley funding and work through the backlog. That does mean that we are going to have to issue a moratorium for a while on doing the new alley petitions, and people will need to wait a while even if they do have a successful petition process. Number 2, we could increase the annual funding level for alley improvements. However, generally, we're set at a certain level for the amount of general obligation bonds that are issued for capital program. For streets and transportation projects, that's around $5.1 million this year. If you were to take $500,000 and hold the level constant, then that's $500,000 that would be taken out of another CIP project or program so that would be a significant cut somewhere else. Option 3, we could use one-time revenue sources. Occasionally, the city does see large building permit fees or payments in lieu of taxes come in. These could be directed to a fund for alley paving.
Wait, a payment in lieu of taxes, when did that happen?
If I may, Madam Chair.
I know what it means, I just want to know when it ever happened.
What we're actually referring to is, we've had payment in lieu of taxes, which was truly for a not-for-profit, which the city has really curtailed. That happened in between 2010 and 2013. But I'll give you another
Not
example
recently.
of a payment in lieu of taxes. That is the walkway over Central. That is we call it a payment in lieu of taxes, but it's an easement fee, and so we're looking at utilizing potentially easement fees as one source.
It must have been 20 years ago.
It's been a while that we've had
It's been a while.
It is an annual, so it's an ongoing revenue source. The most recent easement fees that you've seen us bring forward have been, but also we've had some Northwestern where we calculated the easement fee for 30 years, I think it was 30, and took the money all up front.
For the chiller.
Yes.
Yes. So just different things that we could bring forward.
I mean, that's real money, 150,000 or something.
Correct.
I mean, that's, I wasn't thinking of easement fees. Okay. Yeah.
Correct.
Mather, yes, and
then
that's annual.
The Mather is inside the general fund, paying for police and fire services right now. That's where that one's going, because it is a consistent revenue source.
Well, that's pretty good use. All right, so that's.
Sorry.
And then, no, that's fine. And then another option would be to actually raise a new fee or tax and dedicate that revenue source to alley funding. I'm not advocating for any specific option here. I'm just bringing them forward as things that we discussed. And in general, I think this is just something where we would sort of appreciate your input as to where we should move forward, if the moratorium is something that we can live with, or if we want to look at other ways of trying to fund the program and increasing participation on the city's behalf, then we're willing to do that as well.
Alderman Nguyen?
Yes. Laura, can you tell us if, this is probably a much smaller number than I'm hoping it is. So if we paved 5 more alleys a year, how much would we save in not having to maintain those alleys? I mean, if, let's say, with each alley that we pave, how much do we save in maintenance costs of regrading and regrading? Is there a way to calculate that?
There is a way to calculate it. I don't have that information, but I can certainly do a calculation.
But it's probably not nearly as big as I hope
No.
it is. No, I'm watching
Over the
Dave.
lifetime of the alley, I think it does become significant. We estimate the life of an alley that's been improved at 75 years. So 75 years of regrading, when right now I think we're planning this year to try to regrade 4 times this year per alley? I mean, that could be a significant time savings, but it's over a long period of time.
As a follow-on on that, though, the idea in that is you would have to reduce the operating cost by that amount and send it to the capital fund to do this. So those staff can't be retasked to do something else. They have to, the hours have to go away, and the road grader has to go away for there to be a real savings that could then be put towards the brick and mortar of new alleys. So, and not to say that we wouldn't look at that, we do change services all the time, but if we retask to do other things that we're behind on, then there's no real savings.
No, I understand. I'm just trying to understand if we could potentially factor that in. And so what you're saying is unless we pave them all and don't need a road grader anymore, we're not really saving that much.
I don't know that it has to be everything at once. For instance, we're at the 40-mile mark. We're only halfway. If we only had to go a lesser distance, if you will, because I shouldn't say, if we didn't have to do as many alleys for road grading, the crew is, how many people are on the alley paving crew?
Approximately 4, but we do we grade 10 alleys a day in general. So you do 5 more alleys a year, you're taking a half a day 4 times a year. So that's just 2 days worth of savings.
It's de
the bigger
minimis.
cost is when every year we actually dig out 10 alleys and put new stone down. So that cost, but then I'm not quite sure how many unpaved alleys we have block by block, but there's like 40 miles, so it's a lot, and so you're not really going to save that way either.
Okay. Right.
I think the thing we really ought to spend time on is a way to do this differently. In other words, instead of a $600,000 alley, we should figure out a way to do a $50,000 alley. And maybe we don't, and I know there are lots that are filled with water, garages that are being washed away by flooding in the alleys. There's got to be, I think there must be another way. Not every single community in the whole world paves their alley like we do. And I know we've tried different ways of grading, more intense grading with more intense, packing and the use of recycled asphalt and all of that. I just think we're going to have to try it at some point because, I mean, $600,000 to pave an alley, that's a lot.
It is.
And then
That's a big alley.
we're starting to look at people and telling them that it's going to cost, their share is going to be $10,000. This lady who just spoke, the increase is now up to almost $10,000 per household. That's too much, I think.
So we can certainly look at other options that are being used in other places for doing alley grading or alley pavement and improvement. But I know that there have been less expensive going through and just doing a real brief asphalt overlay over an alley in Wilmette and other places, and those communities generally have turned away from doing that because the alleys don't last. A significant reason why a lot of people choose to enter into the alley improvement program is because of drainage issues.
I've argued that with people about petitions. That's why you need to pave your alley, because of drainage.
And
I know.
then, once you're installing a drainage system, you're already increasing the cost just with that.
But the fact is, there are some alleys, and I've looked at them, where people are taking out petitions that really, they're fine. It's an exaggerated move to pave those alleys because they really look fine. So those alleys, we could avoid resurfacing them all, not resurfacing, but grading them all the time, maybe by doing something a little more intense. I just think it's going to be so costly for people. It's just getting out of hand. And we've never had really the discussion. Every now and then, we talk about packing the stuff down harder, but I think we ought to look at,
And Madam Chair, I'm sorry if Alderman, do you have your light on, Alderman? I would just, to finalize direction, is there no desire, our bureau chief is not advocating for revenue. Your CFO always advocates for ongoing revenue for our capital program to continue to try and replace debt. So in looking at this, what you have up there, it was $150,000 will cut our backlog by 25%. Please realize that when Ms. Biggs said that we're going up to $1 million, that means the city's portion is $500,000 and the residents' portion is $500,000, and we're doing $1 million worth of alley. So a 1%. I'm sorry, it's not 1%, it should be 1 penny. That was my mistake. 1 penny increase to the gasoline tax, for instance, that $150,000 would make a difference, but it has its own issues with development and keeping gas stations in town.
and not only that, but people who want their alleys paved need to bear the cost. I just don't think that cost should be spread across the whole town. I mean,
We wouldn't change the distribution, it'd still be 50-50, because we actually talked
but
about
we'd
that.
still be kicking, those of us
picking up
not getting
someone
our
else.
alley paved would be kicking in for the city portion.
Or those of us who already paid to have our alleys
Yeah,
paid.
you
So,
already
yeah.
paid, yeah, right. So, it's complicated, but there's, just wait. So anyway, I think the idea of maybe using the easement, even though it would be money we could spend on Robert Crown or on playgrounds or something, that's not a reliable source of funds, easement fees.
Yes, they are. I
Well,
mean,
the ones that we're getting, but you can't count on increasing them,
Right.
by any certain.
Right, and
You
and
can't
so
predict what-
looking at, well, we can't predict that we're going to have more.
That's what I mean.
And if we looked at the one-time permit revenue that we would get, that we get some of those in from the, occasionally when Northwestern builds a building.
Yeah, but that goes to the general
Right,
fund.
I agree.
I would
just-
oppose that.
I'm just discussing these
Yeah.
things, and that's not a steady form either.
It has been steady.
Right, but at some point, Northwestern is going to stop
But
building.
everybody else is, permit fees are relied upon by the city's general fund.
But then, the argument then, Alderman Rainey, would be that we use some of that then, because that's a reliable source of funding
Okay.
for, I do think that, I think that having paved alleys improves the overall value of the entire city for everyone. And it does improve the property value for everyone who's on that alley. And by having a better property value, that improves the tax base for everyone in the city of Evanston. So it isn't just that the folks who, I think it is really a shared value that we have as many alleys paved as possible in the city of Evanston. And I understand that people really would like to get them paved and not have to wait 8 years, because the costs are going to continue to go up. So they want to pave them now. I think it's a really difficult dilemma that we're in, because we don't want to have to raise taxes in order to do that. If we raised the gas tax a penny, we don't want to chase gas stations out of town, and we don't want to chase people out of town. How do we know that people won't just drive across the border and buy their gas there? Because it's going to be a little bit cheaper.
Madam Chair, what I would suggest, given the input, this is a long-term problem. The Board of Local Improvements was faced with it in the last 2 months, and we know that that the constituents were coming forth and saying, there's this issue, we would like to bring it back as a part of the 2017 budget process to say, here are several solutions, because at that point in time, we'll be talking about all the capital funding and give it a fair shake. If there was any desire to do anything quickly, we wanted to give you the facts and figures on what that might be, but failing that, we know that we won't address the backlog in the next 6 months, but we would like to look at long-term solutions, and we could do that either during the fall capital review, when we're looking at all capital projects.
Well, and then the other issue that we also have that's coming up on the table is right now Northwestern is willing to pay the residents' portion for 2 different alleys. And so that's, I mean, there's a bump up in the ability to get 2 more alleys done. So we have to assess, how do we factor that into the mix?
But that
But then
doesn't
how
help
do they
us.
do
That
they
doesn't
get
help
out of
us at all.
line? I mean, in terms of, and I
No,
understand.
No,
well,
not necessarily. No, I'm just saying that that's another factor that we have.
I
Right.
hear you.
They're
and I-
on the list. That
they're
doesn't
on-
help us at all. We end up having to kick in
Right. The city's-
$650,000 because Northwestern's going to pay the residents' share of paving an alley.
But we have to pay our share still. The city still has to
No,
pay
I
their
know,
share.
But how does that help? That doesn't help us. It
Not at
hurts
all.
us.
No, I recognize that, but the fact that we have, so it's 2 more alleys on the list, ready to be,
Well, I know
get
two
going.
that aren't even on the list. There are petitions out. I'm sure you have them up there on that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and the lady who came tonight who says she's already got a petition.
Right.
And it's not till 2020.
Yeah.
I can't imagine when these are going to be. They haven't even been presented yet.
And we certainly all have streets in our wards that desperately need to be repaved. And I
That's
would
the way
not,
the tax.
and I would really
gas
not
tax
want to
extra funds
redirect,
should go.
I really would not want to redirect street paving funds away, because that really only continues to go, the price of repaving a street just continues to go up every year that we don't do it.
Oh, there you have it.
Thank you. No,
But
lot of
I know it
discussion
sounds
when
as if
budget
it was that we're pushing it down the road, but budget starts in 4 months. We have sufficient funds. We have more alleys right now than we can construct for the next year. So we're not telling anyone that because you're not making a decision tonight that they're pushed off further. We wanted to bring this to you now, so we're not, if we decide in calendar year 2016 to do what we're going to do, nobody would have gotten going any sooner than if we decided tonight.
Well, I think we could have made some decisions on taxi cabs, but on this, I don't think you could expect us to
No,
make a decision.
it was definitely an item for
This-
discussion.
We need to sell more water.
pay for alleys.
All right. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
This was a great report. Both reports tonight.
Yes,
were
both are very
excellent.
good. Thank you.
So that's all we have. Alderman Braithwaite, we referred the Penny Park issue to the council, so we were going to wait. We tried to wait, but, so you can deal with that. Okay. Okay. It was unanimous. Oh, good. All right. Could I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And